Hi everyone, my name is Eli Weinstein. I am the author of the up-and-coming book, From I Do to We Do, Navigating Marriage in Parenting Years. Thank you so much, Boulder Bookstore, for having me on here. It's such an honor to be on your shelves, and so excited speaking to you, telling you about this book. This book is really about helping couples stay connected while raising kids, because parenting itself doesn't break marriages, but sleep deprivation, stress, arguing about who forgot to restock the diapers absolutely can, and don't get me started on low-grade resentment. I wrote it for the couples who love each other, but feel stretched thin and sometimes more like coworkers running a household than a romantic partner. The book blends real-life stories from my own home and my work as a therapist for almost 10 years with practical research-backed tools that couples can actually use today. I talk about how to communicate without turning everything into a debate, how to share the emotional and mental load, and how to repair after those "we did not handle that well" moments. This isn't about perfection, forcing date nights, or fixing your partner. It's about helping couples feel like teammates again, not roommates, and reminding them that if your relationship feels harder after kids, it doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human and raising some tiny chaos goblin agents together. So what inspired me to write this book? Let's be real. I wrote this book for me. But let's be honest, I also wrote it as a therapist and a parent, which basically meant that I was watching the same thing happen in my office, in my home, for me, for my clients, in the world, all at the same time. I kept seeing good couples struggle, not because they were broken, because no one ever taught us how parenting fundamentally changes a relationship. In the introduction of the book, I talk about a really bad fight my wife and I had early on in parenting. One of those fights where you're not even arguing about the thing anymore, you're arguing about everything. I was dealing with panic attacks and trying to figure out who I was in this whole process. And my wife was in her own process of becoming a mom, losing parts of herself along the way. We loved each other, still do, deeply, but connection felt buried under exhaustion, logistics, and survival mode. Around the same time, I started the Dude Therapist podcast. Honestly, I was bored during COVID and just trying to have real conversations and not pretend any of this was easy. And that's when the door really opened. I kept hearing the same story from my clients over and over again. We love each other, so why does this feel so hard? And then I got a call about 2 years ago from Wiley Publishers, which still feels surreal. And it felt like this quiet confirmation that these stories mattered. Not because they were polished, because they were real. This book came from that realization. Couples don't need fixing, they need language, tools, and permission to learn how to find themselves and each other again in the chaos. You know, this book, I'm not joking, is packed with tools and tips for anyone and everyone. Every chapter has a think about it, a takeaway, in some way or another, in a box, so you can find them. And in the back in the index, you can also find them too. But I'm going to give you a few that are some of my favorites. So many partners are holding on to this scorekeeping. So they're walking around with an invisible spreadsheet in their heads. Who did the bedtime? Who's more tired? Who handled the meltdown? Who forgot the thing? Who's dealing with the bills? Who's doing more? The problem is relationships aren't math problems. And once you start quantifying the quality, which you can't, you stop seeing your partner as a person and you start seeing them as a list of tasks. You know, a really practical way to loosen that up is to zoom out and ask, who is my partner today? Instead of, what didn't they do? Maybe they're exhausted, overwhelmed, or showing up in a quieter way. When couples shift from measuring output to understanding capacity, things soften fast. Another tool I introduce, which I learned from an amazing mentor of mine when I started dating, his name is Josh Goller, is called the import-export list. Instead of silently resenting what your partner isn't doing, you name what you need to export, the things you're overloaded with, and what you can realistically import or take on for each other. It's also a conversation while you're dating and even married, to be able to sit down and go, here's what I want to bring into my family and our life and our home, and here's what I want to push out. The values, the things that I grew up with that I don't like, the things that I love that I want to be in, and having a curious, beautiful conversation about what matters to the two of you. Within the topic of conversations, another tool is called the huddle or the check-in. It's a short intentional check-in, 3 to 5 minutes, not a full relationship summit, not a TED talk. And the goal isn't to solve everything, is to stay aligned so that resentment doesn't have time to build. It's a way to let out the steam, so to speak, from the pressure cooker and say, hey, I just want to get this off my chest and we can move on. And finally, there's a couples journal that I do as well. All these tips and tricks I try to do myself, which gives partner a place to get thoughts out of their heads and onto paper, especially when talking feels really hard. It's not about writing poetry. It's about creating clarity, shared language, and fewer wait, that's not what I meant moments. All of these tools are simple, repeatable, and designed for real couples who don't have time for perfect, just something that actually works. You know, a major mistake I see a lot of partners making in their marriage and in parenting is this idea of slowly turning each other into opponents instead of teammates, usually without realizing it. Stress and exhaustion creep in, and suddenly your partner isn't your person anymore. They're the one not doing enough. A huge part of that is what I call partial communication. We drop hints. We sigh a little bit too loudly, say, I'm fine, or assume our partner should just know what we need. Then when they miss it, because they're also exhausted and human, we take it personally. Full communication is different. It's actually saying the thing out loud. What you need, when you need it, why it matters. Not as a demand, but as clarity. Can you please take the garbage out now because it's so full and I have some things to throw out? Or, I'm at capacity, I'm at my end, can you take bedtime tonight? Beats hoping your partner reads your tone correctly after a very long day. I see this all the time with stuff like bedtime, morning routines. One partner's thinking, if they truly loved me, they'd jump in. The other's thinking, I didn't know you needed help. You looked like you had it all together. Same moment, totally different stories. That's how teammates become opponents. And once resentment shows up, couples start arguing about tone, timing, or who's doing more instead of solving the actual problem. The fix isn't doing more or trying harder. It's communicating more fully, earlier, and with less guessing. Most couples already care deeply. They just need clearer language when things get hard. So, how can improving your marriage improve yourself as a parent? Well, improving your marriage actually makes you a better parent. Not because your kids need you to be happier all the time, but because we need you to be more regulated. When parents feel connected, they're calmer, more patient, and more consistent. And kids don't need perfect parents, they need grounded ones. I know I need to be grounded sometimes. Your relationship also sets the emotional tone of the home. Whether you realize it or not, kids are always watching how you handle stress, disagreement, and repair. They notice if you and your partner are working together or walking on eggshells. When kids see teamwork, respect, and repair, they learn those skills too. They learn that conflict doesn't mean the house is on fire. It means humans are figuring things out. And that's huge. I tell couples all the time, you don't have to pretend you never argue. You just don't want your kids thinking unresolved tension is the normal setting. So let them see you come back together, a calm reset, an apology, or even saying, that didn't go great, let's try that again. It teaches emotional safety better than perfection ever could. A stronger partnership doesn't just help your marriage, it makes parenting easier and the home feels steadier. And kids, again, don't need perfect parents, they need you. You know, I was asked, what kind of books am I reading now? I'll be honest, I've been a little off nonfiction since doing all the research and writing for the book, but I will suggest one book that blew my mind. I really loved Super Communicators by Charles Duhigg, which I quote often in the book. It's such a smart, practical look at how people actually connect and communicate, which obviously hits close to home for me and this topic. Okay, on the fiction side, the more fun, I've been deep into Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman, which is ridiculous in the best way, funny, chaotic, surprisingly thoughtful. I've also been working through the Red Rising series like every other guy on this planet, which is intense and addictive, and Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. Honestly, anything he writes takes me on a ride and messes with my head in a very good way. And then there's Snafu by Ed Helms, which I love because it blends humor, history, and how did humans survive this energy? It's a good reminder that chaos isn't new. We're just learning our version of it. It's a great read. Is there anything else to tell you about the book? Of course there is. This book isn't about fixing your marriage, it's about understanding it. A lot of couples come in thinking something must be wrong with us, when really they're just navigating a season no one has ever trained you for. I want you to hear that. No one's ever trained you for this. Struggling doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're human, under pressure, and doing something really hard. We aren't supposed to magically know how to communicate under stress, divide emotional labor, or stay connected while raising kids. Those are skills. And like any skill, they can be learned, practiced, and figured out. We owe it to ourselves and our relationships to learn them instead of beating ourselves up for not having them figured out already. This book is meant to be a guiding map and a light. Whether you're deep in the chaos, just starting to feel disconnected, or even preparing for parenthood and wanting to be more intentional. Whether you are, there's a way. Wherever you are, there's a way forward. And here's the part people don't always expect. This book, it's secretly about 80% relationship skills and 20% stories, cases, and real-life examples. So whether you're already a parent, pregnant, or planning to be one day, the tools apply. The stories just remind you you're not alone. The goal isn't a perfect relationship. It's a more understood, supported, and resilient one. And yes, you're still allowed to argue about the dishwasher. Now, I would love to read to you from my book. This is the conclusion of the book. It is a story that means so much to me, and I'm very honored that I get to share it with you. When I was in 3rd grade, I had one of the best teachers of my life, Mrs. Itzkowitz. She also happened to be my backyard neighbor growing up in Long Island. Bursting with energy, love, and kindness, she taught me how to read time, believe in myself, and embrace all the quirks and weirdness that makes us beautiful humans. One of the most powerful memories I carry from her classroom has stayed with me to this day, and it's something I hope to pass on to my kids and you. One morning, she'd written a bunch of negative "I can't" statements on the board. They were all the ways kids talk themselves out of trying. I can't do math, I can't draw, I can't be good at sports. She looked at us and said, "None of these belong in my classroom. They're not welcome here because they stop us from growing." She then had us do a project. We sat quietly and wrote out every "I can't" that came to mind. Here are some of the things on my list. I had things like I can't do math. I can't write clearly. I still have terrible handwriting, by the way. I can't be an astronaut. I can't sing. I can't play basketball. I can't run fast. I can't do the monkey bars. I can't write good. Remember, I was in 3rd grade, and I can't spell good. And the list went on. After that, we cut each statement into strips, placed them in a shoebox, and went outside to the grassy patch behind the school. One by one, we read our statements out loud, tossed them into the box, and buried them. Then she said something that has echoed in my mind ever since. From this moment on, you're no longer the reason you don't achieve your goals. If something's hard, ask for help. Try again. Try differently. Never stop chasing greatness for yourself. But don't say you can't and limit yourself just because you haven't figured it out yet. You always can. That day I felt unstoppable. I'll be honest, one of the biggest "I can't" statements I've carried into adulthood is "I can't write." Whether it was a school paper, a blog post, or a tweet, I just didn't see myself as a writer. So to be sitting here, wrapping up on an actual book is more than a career milestone. It's a personal victory. It's me burying that "I can't" in the ground for good. So thank you for reading this, for giving me the chance to prove myself wrong, and for reminding me that growth is always possible. And now I want to ask you, what limiting beliefs are you still carrying? What invisible rule have you made for yourself or your relationship that's quietly whispering you're not enough? I'm not saying that everything is possible just because we want it badly enough, but I'm saying try. Try with all your heart. Ask for help. Seek out guidance. Use what you have, and don't give up before you've really started. I've been asked a lot lately how this book came to be, and like I told you earlier, it was through the podcast, never giving up. 2.5 years of pitching to Slumberkins. Finally getting a yes. Why? Because I stopped saying I can't and started asking anyways. That same interview led to a connection with Wiley Publishing. They heard my voice, sass and all, and offered me the chance to write a book about a topic that has shaped my personal and professional life and passion. I still can't believe it, but here we are. If you found this book because you felt stuck, disconnected, or maybe even hopeless in your relationship, I want you to hear me clearly. You haven't given up. You're here. You're looking for guidance, hope, and a way forward. That means you're still in it. That means you still care. Trying doesn't always look like grand romantic gestures or epic breakthroughs. Sometimes trying looks like picking up a book, highlighting a passage, sending a text instead of going to bed angry, or reading one more chapter after the kids are asleep. And that counts. That matters. You are actively choosing your relationship. You are finding another way forward. This book won't fix everything, but it's a guide for small daily choices that can get you moving in the right direction, not back to where you were, but forward to where you want to go. It's not about perfect communication, constant passion, or having it all figured out. It's about being honest, doing your best with what you have, and believing that your relationship is still worth the effort. So bury your own I can't statements. Say, I can love again. I can show up differently. I can try one more time. I can ask for help. I can grow. You've made it to the end of this book, which means you've already done something many people avoid. You've looked your relationship in the eye and said, you're worth the work. That's no small thing. We begin this journey in the chaos, the sleep-deprived, tension-filled. Who even are we right now? Season of parenting. The truth is some days we're still there, but now we know the map a little better. We've learned where the potholes are and how to slow down before we hit them. My hope for you isn't a perfect road. It's the courage and tools to keep traveling it together. Parenting will keep changing you. Let it. Let it deepen your love, sharpen your patience, and make you braver. Here's my promise. There will be days when parenting feels impossible, nights when your relationship feels distant, and moments when you wonder if you're still the same people who said, I do. That's normal. But marriage doesn't stop as I do. The real work, the real love is in how you keep choosing we do day after day. But it's also a reminder that your relationship is not a side project to raising kids. It's the foundation everything else rests on. Protect it. Feed it. Let it matter. Because when it's strong, you're strong. And strong couples make strong families. Love in this season isn't effortless, it's built. Brick by brick. Choice by choice, day after day. That's where the magic is. And if you remember nothing else, remember this. Don't stop trying. Because you can.